All right. It says go, Richie. It's time to go. Hi,
Okay.
Richie. Hi, Richie Lampani. How
Hi,
are you?
Aaron. Good.
I'm
How
so
are
happy
you?
you're here.
Um,
You're my longtime LinkedIn friend.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
still do.
go.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
you
you
go.
go. Too slow. I was
All
gonna say,
right.
are you
No,
still doing it? I'm gonna
we're off
shut
to a
up
really
now.
bad start, Richie. So, so Richie, all right. So real quick, Richie is my guest today, and we are going to be talking about recruiting. And I am so happy you're here because I always ask everyone to give me a little write up about themselves. And Richie is the COO of Underground Administration. And one of their things is a no BS approach. And when I think of you, Richie, that is probably one of the phrases that comes up is no BS.
Mm,
You really kind of tell it like it is. And I think you do it with a lot of humor and honesty. And it's a great balance that you've built of just being authentic and talking about a lot of the stuff that I think people tend to over amplify on LinkedIn and try to make
mm,
scary and all that kind of jazz. So
yeah.
I'm glad you're here because we're going to talk about all those things. So now,
Okay.
what did you want to
Yeah.
say?
Well, we met because of the resume thing. I know you still do
Yeah,
some of it, but those are funny. Those are very weird times for me. I'm glad I don't really do it anymore. If somebody throws me one and they're being nice, I'll just redo it for them now. It's so much different
yeah,
than 2 years ago, but that's how we met, kind of. So,
yeah. Yeah, we did. So we met through LinkedIn. It still is one of the best
mhm,
reasons I think LinkedIn, for everything that maybe sometimes gets a little annoying about LinkedIn, there's some really cool
mhm,
people that we would have never crossed paths had we not met through LinkedIn. So
right.
you know, anyhow, let's get to the good stuff. I want to talk about
Okay.
recruiting because I know a huge number of the people who are following my content on LinkedIn that I work with are in the job seeking space. And it's almost like a four-letter word, recruiter, right? The recruiter ghosted
Mhm,
me. I don't understand how recruiters work. The recruiter said this, the recruiter reached out. I'm making a LinkedIn profile so a recruiter will contact me. Like there's all this talk about recruiters and what recruiters do. And I thought, well, who better to have here than this guy here who's
mhm.
been doing it for years. So maybe we could just talk a little bit about recruiters in general and like tell me, what are recruiters?
I'm
What do
telling
they
you.
do?
Well,
Yeah, you're telling me.
so
What do they do? What are
so
they?
so for an agency recruiter, what we do is first we bug the shit out of every hiring manager that we can find to work on their jobs, or we have relationships. Like one of my really good friends is actually a director I work with. We've known each other 14 years, so I do all of his hiring. But we
Yeah.
bug we hit up people, we sell ourselves, we show a brand authority, whatever you want to call it, that we know what we're doing. And then when they give us the jobs to work on, they have usually for agency, there's no flex. We got to find who they can't find or find people quicker than they can find them or we don't exist. So I think a lot of the confusion comes in on LinkedIn, especially on the agency side. We don't
Wait,
have
wait,
the
wait.
flex.
Maybe you got to tell people because maybe people don't know what agency is. Will you tell people what
Okay.
agency is?
Okay. So agency recruiting means that for us anyway, underground admins, we own our company, Underground Admins, and we are contracted by companies like Wells Fargo is a big one that we work with. They come to us and say, "Hey, our internal team is too busy doing this, or this is outside of their wheelhouse. Can you step in and kind of add to the search on top of what they're doing?" So, agency, we're essentially freelancers that work for other companies to find them their employees. I think
Exactly.
that's the best way
Okay.
to put it.
Yeah, I would agree. That's the world I come from too. So it's basically like there's two different types of recruiter. There's recruiters that work for the company. So you might be a recruiter who works at Wells Fargo and you're working on Wells Fargo
Mhm.
jobs. Or you could
Mhm.
be like Richie and Underground Admins, which is like they're their own company and Wells Fargo may hire them to come in
Yeah.
and help either supplement because you've
Supplement.
got too
Yeah.
much to do, or maybe they're really special skill sets that their recruiters typically don't work on, and maybe you guys
Mhm.
specialize in them. But
Yeah.
there's kind of like two different worlds that a lot of times I think people outside of recruiting don't know that that's the
Right.
case.
And we do, especially in places like Wells Fargo and some of my other clients, we work directly with their internal. We are not in competition with them. Typically on those roles, they'll have them posted too in a different way.
Yeah.
But we still work with internal talent every day. It's not, there's this looks, it always from the outside before I got into it, it appeared that we all hated each other. So agency and internal.
Yeah.
And we joke about it, like me and Amy Miller joke about it all the time. And you came from agency as well. I think Amy did too. But
Yeah.
if we don't work together, holy crap, this becomes such a big mess. And you see a lot of new agency people don't get that they have to make friends with those people too, with y'all too. It doesn't work. So we're all still recruiters. We just have different ways about going about what we do.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I'm thinking about like some of the stuff I always end up talking to people about because you hear a lot about like what a recruiter's job is. So, what's your job? And like, as far as job seekers go, like what's your role or your interaction with job seekers? Like, what are you actually doing with them? What are you not doing with them? Like, what's
Okay.
not your job?
Okay. So my job is how I would go about. So yesterday we got a big project for we need between 5 and 8 account executives for a client. So my job is to find probably closer to 20 people that fit exactly the parameters that they want. And we've been doing this long enough that we get to talk about it, and they don't just say you need to find this. We can say, well, that's not going to work in this market. We have some play with it, but my job is to take their parameters of the people they want and go into the market and not find just people that are laid off or people that are looking, but find people that fit what they want, and then to present them to that hiring manager. And then from there, after we present them, we carry them through the process. So this particular role has 2 interviews. It takes about 6 weeks to get through the whole thing because everybody starts at the same time. They all fly to New York, blah, blah, blah. So I have to carry them through that 6 weeks, prepping for interviews, kind of coaching during that time, making sure the resume looks good, how my manager wants to see it. And then at the end,
Are
I'll
you
send the offer.
rewriting their resumes for them?
I am not typically if I screen them and it's something where it's formatted funny, or they've talked about something on the screen and it's not in their resume and I know it's important, then I'll tell them or walk them through. Sometimes if I have more time than them, I will add, or whatever's true. I'm not going to lie for them. But a lot of the times with agency, unless it's like a Wells Fargo, when I present them, the manager is going to read my summary anyway before they get to the resume. And if my summary is good enough, they're not going to read the resume anyway. So,
Yeah.
but that's that relationship. Now, if I'm presenting to Wells Fargo, with compliance and everything has to be on the resume 100%, hit all the requirements. So that's a different thing. But that's kind of being agency too. We have we call it retail, smaller clients that we have some flexibility and we can talk to that manager. But if I submit to Wells Fargo, I can go to lunch with that TA every single day. We can be best friends. But if I submit that person and they go into the portal and their resume is wrong, it's done. I can't do anything about it. So that's kind of, we have to be flexible in agency, and I'm sure you would have to be a little bit in internal too. But some clients it's very, very specific, and other clients it's a little looser. Like the requirements for our new roles, and we've done this one like 4 times. They can have between 6 months and 40 years experience. They don't care. It's mostly soft skills. So you just have to be really adaptive and be flexible in agency. Like I know with you, with Amazon, you probably have federal contracts, and I don't know how that works with a new admin, but
Yeah.
you have to follow specific things or you can be in trouble for it. So it's very different.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway that I want people to have is a lot of times there's this idea that if you give your resume to a recruiter, there's somebody who's going to work for you and they're going to be rewriting your entire resume. And it's like what you're saying, Richie, is kind of if I have to rewrite or work with you on certain parts of your resume to help it shine through that when I was screening you and talking to you, you said you could do X, Y, and Z, and I don't see that on your resume, I might make those small tweaks because it's going to help me present that in a better way to the client, or I'm going to put that in my summary. So Richie made a mention of a summary that he gives to his client, and that's really common in agency where the recruiter or the person who's working with that client is going to say, here's a quick little blurb about why I'm giving this person to you as a candidate. Here's the things that I see that really match what you told me you needed. And, and so like you said, they might not even spend a lot of time on the resume, but it's a big misconception that a lot of people have that if a recruiter reaches out to them, somehow this recruiter has a job or a responsibility to rewrite their resume for them. And that's really like, you're on your own on that
let's
one.
be real too. You and I have been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, especially with AI, for me, it takes me 15 minutes to fix a resume. It could be a total like crazy nonsense resume. And I can get something passable within 10, 15 minutes. So
can you tell me about passable? Like, let's talk about what's passable on a resume. Because there's also this thing, like, I don't do a lot of resume writing myself anymore for that reason. It's, if you do it with somebody, you spend a lot of time, and there's kind of this like hyper focus on if you just get your resume right, then it's all going to be okay. And that's not really true. It's just one piece of it. So tell me about passable on a resume.
Passable to me means that we're going to hit your experience. I mean, you've seen my template, or I think I stole my template from you at some point, but so I definitely subscribed to you and fixed it.
You and everybody else with a free template on the internet.
Mine comes from the Harvard one, and then probably yours and somebody else's.
I don't know. Whatever.
So passable is just like a basic black and white. I don't care about page length. We've never rejected on page length. I do skills up top and then make sure the skills line up within the experience. So if you say you have JavaScript, React, and it's in your skills and then it's in none of your jobs, you don't have it as far as I'm concerned.
I say that one all the time. Yes.
Yeah. So passable means that it's concise. It doesn't sound like a 3-year-old wrote it, and the hiring manager can understand it. Passable is also a not overly crazy language. So I was a history major and played football. I don't understand half of the shit that I'm sorry, I keep swearing. Half of the stuff I get when someone gets really crazy wordy, and I'm like, this is too much. Like, you have to remember when I started recruiting, I was like 28 years old and still bartending. And I'm the typical person that started recruiting. And a lot of those people are out there right now and don't understand what you're talking about. They don't get hired typically because they came from a database architect role. They came from something else that they might have probably failed in, honestly, and fell into recruiting. I came from the music industry into this. So I didn't know. I was reading .NET C# resumes, and somebody said MVC, and I'm like, why are they working with PVC? Is this plumbing? What's going on? So you have to remember that even though maybe now I'm pretty technically proficient and I've gone out and got my certs that I needed to be really good at this job, most of the people in this job are early in their career, making 50 grand a year. They don't know what you're talking about. You have to make it so it's passable through, I call it Chad, the first year recruiter, to get it to Richie.
This is why I like you. I like that this first year recruiter has a name.
Yeah. So if he doesn't get it, if you can't make it perfectly clear to him why you fit the job, he's not going to give me or my brother Ben, who's been doing it 17 years and is one of our partners, he's not going to give us the resume. He's going to go, oh, God, this is too confusing. They're going to yell at me if I send this one. pass, sorry. Or he's
Yeah.
gonna ghost you because he has no idea what you even do. You have to make it
Yeah.
obvious. So that's
Yeah.
passable. Obvious, it hits the job description really hard without copying every word. Um, those kinds of things. Resumes have been blown out of proportion so much in the last 5 years. It is astonishing to me how little time we spend on them when we're trying to get somebody
Yeah.
placed, as opposed to the nonsense I see every single day on LinkedIn. It's like it's serious, but right, this is just what gets you through the application portal or through me. That's not even the biggest part. The biggest part is interviewing.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, right now there's a massive amount of applications coming in. How do you make yourself stand out? There's nothing you can really do on that side of it, but apply and really hope you have the best possible presentation of yourself, and then do really well with the recruiter and the internal interviews, and that's it.
Yeah.
Resumes are important, but you can't do much to it to change it as long as it's good.
Yeah, I always tell people I have this concept of ROI. Like, think of it this way. You have a limited amount of real estate and a limited amount of attention capital coming from your audience. You need to put whatever is going to get you a phone screen. And that's it. If it doesn't bring you return on the investment of the space and the time you're asking someone to read it, don't put it on there. That means simple language, keeping to things that are relevant to the job. We don't need to know about your personal interests or how many dogs you have or any of that kind of stuff. Like, just stick to the job posting, show that you fit what they're looking for, and make it so that somebody, Chad or whoever's reading it, says, oh, this person seems like they're mostly a fit. We should probably talk to them and learn a little bit more. And then
But really,
that's all you needed to
do
do.
you think they need to customize resumes for every? If you're applying to jobs you're qualified for, the same resume should work every single time. If you're just applying, these shoot your shot
Yeah.
things aren't going to work out anyway.
Oh,
So
no.
if you
No.
are a full stack developer with React and I've had so many things in my head, Node and all this stuff, and that's what you do, and you've done it in your jobs. If you put it where it was in your jobs and you apply to a job that requires 2 years with that, you should get an interview ideally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about customizing every time. It just seems like a
Well,
waste of time.
no, you know where I see the customization come in a lot, that idea is for people who are pivoting. I work with a lot of career pivoters. And
Yeah,
pivoters
I
are
can see it.
dealing with a different problem, right? Like, they're trying to
Mhm.
figure out what they want to do and then how to take what they've been doing and make it sound like what they want to do, and then somehow work through, I don't really know what I'm doing. And so what you end up with there is you end up with a mess. And so I do think that when I talk about resumes, a lot of times my messaging goes specifically to my prime audience, which is people who are changing careers, coming back after a long gap. And that can take a little bit of work. But yeah, if you've been working and if you've been working in the same, I've been in sales for how long? Like, if
Mhm.
I am going to make a resume, I'm just going to go make a sales resume. I'm going to talk about how I did
Right.
against my quota. I'm going to talk about the industries. I'm going to talk about the size of customers I worked with. I'm going to talk about awards that I won. I'm going to talk about the same 5 things because I know that in sales, that's currency. But I think people
Right.
who are pivoting, who don't know where they're going, and then they're trying to maybe do like project management or customer success, or maybe they want to be a curriculum designer. And so they've got 14 resumes that say 27 different things. And it's like, I don't know how you keep that straight. Like, you can't be 47 different things. You got to pick one.
You're talking about teachers transitioning
I mean,
specifically, right?
mostly, not all teachers. I work with other people who are coming from, I worked with a priest once who decided to become an instructional designer. It's my coolest story I have. Yeah.
Did you get a
But
job?
he did. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good story.
And shout out to Tim Slade as well, who runs the Instructional Designers Academy, because
Okay.
Michael went through his course and did a lot of skill building there too. But yeah, we worked together and he made the pivot. So yeah, the pivoting thing is definitely, a lot of people
Yeah.
pivot, right? We all hit that point in our life where we're just like, what does it all mean? What am I doing?
I don't think for a teacher, there's some careers that teachers I've seen over the last couple of years they can
Yeah.
pivot into. It's not easy, but it's a little like project management, project coordination.
Yeah.
Those are pretty easy. Not easy, I shouldn't say that. This market's so screwy. But yeah, before it
Yeah.
got wild, I saw a lot of people moving to project management fairly simply. What the thing I hate now and that I've learned to catch is that someone taught all the teachers to call their students stakeholders, and
Oh,
as soon as I see it, I already know. And so I've been telling people that hit me up, I'm like, just don't do that. Be honest. Like,
no.
with teachers, you have one of the most noble careers that we have in our country outside of, including, along with firefighting and stuff. Call
Yeah.
yourself a teacher. I mean, I know how
Yeah.
bad that is. Amy that Cones UA was a ESL and arts teacher, so she knows. So most of us have a special place. My godmother was a special ed teacher that passed a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. My mom worked for the education system. So we all have a connection. There's no reason to lie about it and call it steak.
And
I
it just
hate
makes
that.
it weird. It just makes
Yeah.
it weird. Yeah. Or you start like, yeah, or calling them customers as well. I see a lot of that where we call the students customers, and like my sales brain, right? I go right to like, okay, what kind of customer? What size of customer? And it's like,
Right.
oh, those are students. I'm like, you're using
Mhm.
words that are going to bring up questions that you're not going to have the right
Mhm.
answers to, and it's going to get
Right.
weird real fast.
Right. Real
And
fast.
so just call it like it is. You know what? You just said you actually said this a couple times. You were talking about the market and what's going on in the market right now. Let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the market. It
Mhm.
was so easy to get a job during the pandemic, right? Everybody was remote, every place was hiring, and then we sort of went through the opposite where a lot of people found themselves
I didn't
not,
even know anything was going on during honestly, I
yeah,
never went on LinkedIn because I was strategic accounts. We already had everybody in our database. Like we just called people. We were low level support.
yeah.
I just didn't even know people were switching jobs. And then I left that job and went back into agency. And I was like, what? Everybody was making like 200 grand a year to recruit. I'm like, what did I miss? And you look at my timeline, I didn't log into LinkedIn for like 3 years. I never posted a job, anything. So the market for us, because we're tech, we're still hurting on engineers, software engineers, orders anyway. Um, Remote for us is all but dead. But we're agencies, so the thing you remember, and I tell the new recruiters too, that why don't we get more new remote orders? And it's because why would you hire me? I mean, I want them, so give them to me if you got them, but why would you give that to me? A remote job? We should be able to, and somebody should be able to throw up a job post and get 400 apps on most remote jobs, unless they have no network. So
Yeah.
we get a lot of hybrid. We are getting a lot of director database stuff like that, which is good. We are getting more sales, which is always a super positive sign. Um,
Tell me why
Last
that's a
year,
positive sign. Let's talk about that for a second.
because
Why is sales a good
okay,
sign?
so right. So when market shift and the budgets come out and things like that, we want to front load. Look, clients want to front load their money, right? So the only way to get money in the door is to hire sales. Typically, is to
Hmm.
hire salespeople. So when we start budgeting and we see things like recruiters and sales start picking up, which I've seen a lot of people get laid off and a lot of people get hired in recruiting world. So I don't know what to think about that. But getting sales orders means that budgets are coming out. They want to get some of the money spent to pull more money in. And that's been really cyclical. Since I started, where sales comes first, and then we see some mid-level management, and then we see some of the engineers and stuff get hired. Usually last is executive. So in this kind of cycle, we did have a false start last year where I felt like it was going to happen, and we did do a bunch of sales hiring, and it just fizzled. It didn't really do anything. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping it holds this time. But yeah, we have I think 10 new sales oriented orders, and then we have a lot of mid level management stuff, and then some mid to senior tech. We don't have anything junior yet, which is usually
Hmm.
another thing. Once juniors start getting hired, then we're cooking. Then it's going to get busy again. So,
Yeah. How do you find people? Because I think that's another one that I see come up a lot is like, I hear people say, well, I think I have to start posting on LinkedIn so recruiters will find me. And tell me, let's talk a little bit about reality. Like, how do you find somebody?
I mean, reality for how we do it is, we're all of our recruiters are freelance, right? So
Mm-hmm.
pretty much everybody that works with us has got 5+ years. I'm trying to think who has less. I think everybody's over 6 or 7 years experience now. Oh no, we have one guy that came from management that's one of our new people, and he was a sales leader at a hedge fund, and now he's recruiting, which he's doing really good. He's he does the best screens I've heard in a while. But anyway, they're gonna probably post something maybe on their LinkedIn, and that'll be the end of it. We really don't post our jobs on LinkedIn. It's too expensive for what we don't get anything out of it. So they are headhunting. Most of them are on Sales Navigator. A couple people on Recruiter.
Okay.
They are not looking in the feed for people. I honestly have had the worst luck with that. I think of anybody that's, and I'm going to regret saying this probably. The
Okay, say
people, the people that are job seekers that are the most vocal are usually, they don't do well for me. I mean,
why do you think? Why do you think that is? I mean, I know we're just totally guessing, but like, tell me more
they
about
spend
that.
too much time on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Honestly, there you get a lot of crazy information on LinkedIn. It is a one giant echo chamber. And I don't mean people that are posting in their niche. If you're an engineer and you're posting about engineering, yeah. If you turn it into a full-time social activity, I'm gonna avoid you. Like,
But
that's
let's
just the
even
reality.
say if they're posting about engineering, like, all right, because I'm coming to this question from a little bit of a bias. Like, I just think it's so stupid. It's such stupid advice to tell people, oh, you got to be out there, you got to be posting about your area of specialty.
No.
If you're an engineer, you got to have something to say. Like, you don't need to have something to say
You don't have to
constantly.
say any. You don't have to say
Yeah.
anything. I submitted 2 people yesterday with no LinkedIn. They didn't have a LinkedIn, and I post some of my Web3 jobs on Twitter, so they came from there. But I said 2 people don't have a LinkedIn. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
I will say that it is better to not post than to get involved in political arguments or any other kind of argument like that on LinkedIn. Even if I don't care, someone up the line will. So we have to, when we're in a market like this, we're not in a candidate. We are in 100% a client-driven employer market. If Joe Schmo up the ladder sees you talking poorly about someone in politics and they know Danny in tech has a strong opinion about the other way, you're creating a hurdle for yourself that you don't need to have. You need a job. Posting on LinkedIn about politics is insane to me. So this, as crazy as it's become and as hard as we try to avoid bias, your sole job when you're job seeking is to get a job. And that means removing every possible hurdle that's going to prevent you. So when you're out there posting crazy stuff in about anything really,
Yeah.
if you're going to offend anybody internally, whether that's a policy of the company or not, if they have some play in your getting hired, you're screwing yourself up for no reason. There's other apps for that.
So
I
the
post
advice is no
crazy
crazy
nonsense.
stuff
Right.
on
I post
LinkedIn.
crazy nonsense on Twitter all the time. I disconnected my Twitter and now everybody's going to go find me. But I post all kinds of crazy stuff. And I just don't do it on LinkedIn. And I've crossed the line a couple times and I've really regretted it. And I haven't even done anything that wild. I mean, okay, let's take that back. I haven't done anything
There
like
was like one time,
politically.
wasn't there?
I mean, the reason I have 45,000 followers is because I spent like 6 months posting in onesies, which got me fired eventually. But for the best.
So would not recommend.
So
Hey, Nikki
I
Nikki
just
has
need
a
to,
question here. I don't know if you can see this, but she asked the question, what about posting once a week that you're looking for work? What do you think about that?
um, I don't I don't know if it ever helps anybody. Like that, I think the green banner and being open to work on the back end is going to help you more. You could do that once a week, I guess, but you're gonna that's what's gonna open up the MLM and the
Yeah.
nonsense recruiters. More so the green banner does it too, unfortunately, but posting is where you get the scammers. Like
Yeah.
that really draws the attention that you're maybe and you're not desperate, but you're gonna create the impression, and it doesn't to the hiring managers don't care that you do that, but to the guy sitting in a basement somewhere trying to figure out how to get you to send a check for a laptop or whatever the new scam is, they're gonna
Right.
go, oh, they really need a job. They're posting
Yeah.
all the time about it.
Yeah.
That's where
You
I
see
would
that all
avoid.
the
It doesn't Most of my managers don't look at LinkedIn. They don't care. Like they don't. Like Joe, when one of the guys does, he'll always call me and be like, "Dude, like what? This is crazy. This meme is crazy. I can't believe you did that." That kind of stuff. But
time.
he's not surfing through looking for candidates. And that's the other part of it. The people you want to talk to, they're never on LinkedIn until they already met you or found you, right?
Right.
So these managers, engineering managers, sales leaders are on more, but like the CTO or the person you need to talk to, that person doesn't open LinkedIn ever. They're busy. They have a job. And then you interview with them, and then they go, oh, now I'll check them out on LinkedIn. And lo and behold, you have some wild opinion that they don't like on such and such, you know? So it's not going to get to the right people 90% of the time anyway
Yeah,
until it's too late.
I tend to share that with you. Nikki was saying she gets shares and connections, and she thought it was helping. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not helping,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
think every situation is different. But my general take is that most people, most everyday people, are very self-involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to see that you're looking for work, and they're going to go, oh, okay, yeah, I should, I'll remember that. And they're not going to do anything with it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you're posting and you're finding that you're posting every week that you're looking for work, and then people are like, here's a job opportunity, and they're helping you, then keep on doing it. But if you're posting and you're saying, I'm looking for work, I see so many of those, and there's something in me, this is just me, but I feel like it's like you're taking a laundry basket of your unfolded laundry and being like, fold my laundry for me. Because
Yeah,
there's so many things that you can do to be your own advocate. You can be out, connecting with people. You could be commenting on people's posts that might be more connected to the companies or the
right,
spaces you want to be in.
right.
You could be going to networking events. There's like all these things that you can do with your time and your energy that are going to be a little bit more driver's seat. Whereas this feels like you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of just like putting like I
Yeah.
need help, and I understand it. I understand the spirit of it, but I just don't think people are really picking that up for the most part.
Well, and the whole thing is like how we react to social media now and how everybody. So I see 20 GoFundMe's a day on LinkedIn. I feel bad
Yeah.
when I see it, but I'm not going to donate to it more than likely. I've done a couple in the past, but I had some connection with a person. I'm going to scroll past. I don't want to be miserable. I'm trying to do my job while I'm on that.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. And then when you do get the shares, I feel like because we're so dopamine driven in this new world, that the person sharing it isn't always doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
So they're doing it to draw attention to their own, how empathetic they are. And a lot of recruiters right now do that too. Like, oh, I want to help everybody find their dream job. I've had one recruiter every year
Mm.
for the last year. They get a job with me and they go, oh, I'm with UA or I'm with so and so. We're gonna help you find our dream job, your dream job. And then they get inundated with connection requests. The post goes viral, and I'm like, why did you do that? Now your DMs are screwed for 2 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
recruiters' attention. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I would just say posting for, I would comment more and network that way. That's how I do a lot of my biz dev. When I'm trying to get a new client, posting never, maybe once in the last 2 years, posting something has gotten me a client one time out of 2 years. And I post every day almost.
Yeah.
Commenting on people's stuff. That means that if you go, this is to answer David too. If you go and you know that Chad the recruiter works for the company Kawasaki. You want to be a business analyst at Kawasaki, and Chad works at Kawasaki, and he writes some, even if it's complete nonsense about Marcus Aurelius or whatever he's writing about. If you go and comment on Chad's stuff, he's going to go, this guy David gets me. I want to talk to him. So I would say commenting way, way, way overpowers anything you could post. 100%.
Yeah, I am completely on board with that. And when I work with somebody, I'm always like, please do not spend your life trying to come up with content that you're going to start posting. And I mean, I've been doing this for years. And I mean, I think you and I are at a similar follower count. And it's, you know, I mean, I do it for different reasons. But if you're trying to do this for your job search, posting, and no, it is not a fast path to anything. And I think commenting, getting in, like finding where there's activity. Think about if there's like a party going on in a room already and you walk in and you could just say hello to a couple people in the party. Like it's much easier than planning your own party from scratch and renting a venue and coordinating the food. Like show up at someone else's party and hang out there. That's the analogy I would give.
Yeah. That's a really good analogy for it too.
For life and job search. Don't host parties at your house because then you have to clean up afterwards.
I spend no time creating content actually, just so everybody knows. When I post, usually I'm making coffee and I laugh about something, or I'm like, oh, this would make people mad and laugh at the same time. And then I do it. Like it's like 10 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, do it. And I regret it a lot of times because sometimes it makes people, you know, feel funny. But most of the time I get laughy stuff. Anytime I try to offer my honest opinion and do anything educational, I get 75 people that got to argue with me because that's not how it went for them. And they don't understand that I'm only speaking from my perspective. That's something that like I just gave up mostly on it. I'll post something once in a while, but most of the time I'm just doing it it's free marketing for the business. And then they can tell that I'm not this wildly serious person that's going to be annoying when I'm on the phone with them. So,
yeah. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think it'd be useful for people to hear. Where exactly are you going to find these candidates, right? Are people applying to your job? And because this is, like you said, this is a hiring person's market right now. So if you're the company, if you're the recruiter, there are people coming to you. You don't have to sort of go out there and fight and find. And so are you mostly just getting inbound applications for jobs that you post somewhere? Are you spending time? I heard you mention, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You're here on LinkedIn. Are you posting jobs on other boards? Tell me about that. Like, where are you finding people for your jobs?
For us, our posted roles are pretty niche, so we don't really rely on that anymore. I don't post the roles that are going to get me 400 apps. I don't need it. So we're mostly headhunting, and honestly, it's going to be Boolean in either regular old LinkedIn. So if your LinkedIn's updated and it has all the skills that I'm looking for in a job search, I'm probably going to hit you up. So right now I'm doing a search for people with Solidity and Golang and stuff like that. And those are kind of niche, right? But it's a remote role anywhere in the world. So if I post that, I'm going to get 10,000 applications. So I do it on regular LinkedIn, up in the search bar. I put the tag that I need to have, and then I just run a regular old search, and I click through, and I will DM or email, and I have Zoom info and all that too, so I can get your cell phone number and that, and I'll call you. But most of ours are going to be searches for the people that have the tech listed on their LinkedIn.
Where are they putting it on their LinkedIn? I'm gonna interrupt you. Where are people putting this? So like where do they need to put stuff on their LinkedIn so that when someone like you is doing this search, it's going to show up?
I think that LinkedIn's pretty good about this, but so it doesn't necessarily have to be in the tagline or anything. It can be in your experience or your about section. So you want to hit all your tech that you actually know, because I'm going to ask you if I call you.
Yeah.
So in your about or your experience is great. If you are something that's a little bit niche, like if you do have those kind of niche skills, especially in tech, if I put them right in your tagline, or headline or whatever you call it, because
The part right under your
those
name, right?
right, the part under your name is going to show up, especially in Recruiter and Sales Navigator and things like that, and on regular LinkedIn. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm searching for a person that knows Go or React, and it's right in their headline, tagline, I'm doing a Boolean, the first thing that I'm going to see is that you know React. It's in your headline. So all of this seeking new opportunities, unicorn, servant leader, blah, 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 I'm not probably going to look at that first. It's not going to pop to me. The tech stack, the engineer, the technical architect, the what you do in that tagline will get me to click way faster than any creative stuff that you've got that you think helps you out. It doesn't.
What do you
So, and
think
this is
about, like, I mean, you're talking about tech, right? Like, you're looking for certain tech skills in what you do. But what about people who are in roles like, let's say, project management and like, or customer success, I mean, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't ask you this, or it's outside of what you're focused on, but like, what are they putting in their headlines? Is it still the tech that they've worked with? Is it some of
so
the
we have
key
the
things?
sales role. We have the sales role. So I'm also, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I'm going to work on a little bit today on an AE role. So in my search, I'm going to do SDR, BDR, customer success. It's the same thing in that box. So I put that right in the tagline too. Really what you do is most important. Like if you look at mine, and I had a weird one for a very, very long time. I had a Liam Neeson thing that I had repurposed, right? But mine now is tech and sales recruiter and PMP because I'm a project management professional. So I have those first. That's what I want people to see when they search me. And it's fun to have a fun tagline. And I got so many DMs about it, and none of them ever amounted to anything, right? So people thought I was really funny for having this creative tagline. It didn't do me any good. Like I need new clients. So I had to go back to the basics. Tech and sales recruiter. That's what I want people to find me for. If I'm a project manager and I want people to find me for project management, and I've been doing it for a while, or if you're an implementation project manager, you want to put implementation project manager, technical project manager. Be as clear and assume that it's me at 26 sitting on the other side of the computer and I don't know what a project manager does, but I got to find that job title. You have to make it easy for me. I'm a freaking liberal arts major that fell into a career in tech. Yeah, and now I know, but before I was like, what are we doing? You know, you have to put yourselves in and don't always pretend that people are on your level intelligence wise or anything else. They probably have other gifts, I'm sure. But you have to act like you're speaking with someone that just doesn't know what you do and make it easy to see what you do in every part of LinkedIn in your resume.
Yeah. So keeping it simple. I mean, we've come back to that a couple times, is keeping things simple. You don't need fancy. You don't need to be cute. You don't need to be creative or the first person who thought of a special way to say something that's probably actually hurting you. I'm guessing is, like you said, when you had this really niche headline, people commented on it, but again, like it wasn't getting you the results you wanted. When you went and it says tech and sales recruiter, which couldn't be more literal to what you do. I mean, now we know what you do. So I do see that a lot too, where it's very flowery, or people have a lot of like descriptive language. The servant leader one, ed tech enthusiast is one of my personal icks that I read a lot, where they're enthusiasts of an industry. But these things don't tell someone who's looking like you what you need to know, sounds like.
Right. I mean, that's what it really boils down to is we're here.
Yeah.
Some people aren't. There's a lot of ghostwriters and other stuff, and everybody falls into the fun game of social Saturday and what. I do want to. Somebody said something earlier. Networking is great, but remember that if you're adding people from Africa, India, across the world, that is where the algorithm is going to point everything you do. So if you have all these connections worldwide and you're looking for a job in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you're going to see all the worldwide stuff when you need to be seeing Grand Rapids people. So Social Saturday was the biggest. I don't even know what. I'm glad I don't see that stuff anymore. But
Is it still
that's
happening?
not who you want to be. I don't have any idea, but holy crap, I was sick of
Yeah.
getting tagged and stuff for that.
No.
Yeah,
It was a dark
avoid
time.
connect with people that are going to be able to help you out. If it's someone in your field, great. If it's a hiring
Yeah.
manager, great. If it's a recruiter in your field, great. If you're a tech person, don't connect with a manufacturing recruiter.
No.
They aren't going to help you probably. Nor not only that, but if you ask them anything, they're gonna maybe if they're new, they're probably gonna guess some wild ass answer, and then you're gonna be one step further back.
You're gonna believe the wrong
All
thing.
recruiters love. We all love to pretend we know everything. I don't know anything about manufacturing, recruiting, or I'm sure it all works out the same way, but it moves faster than I move. I know that. I'm pretty fast, and that stuff is so fast. Amazon recruiters with that warehouse stuff, God bless them. I don't know how you do that all day. But we all aren't the same. So you want to connect with people that can actually networking means network with people that you can benefit from each other. If you're just adding people to add them or accepting connections, just to have it's just gonna distract you. You're here to
Tell me that, because I jotted that down here. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. There was like, I don't know if I'm just not seeing it, but anymore, or if it's still going on or what, but there was like this really strong message like, oh, I got to get 500 connections. If you don't have 500 connections, like, do you, Richie, as a recruiter, care about the number of connections someone has in their eligibility to be hired in your role?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I had a boss that we were interviewing recruiters, and he said that to me. He said, and now recruiting's a little bit different, but he said this guy's got 100 connections. He's been a recruiter for like 16 years. How is that possible? That's gonna be weird for me. But as far as like anybody else, I don't know. I don't know anybody's. I have no
regular
idea
job seekers.
Right.
We don't care.
And if I have this one order where they won't hire people that think they're sales gurus because it's too messy. And I don't blame them. So if they have a big 50,000 connection count and I present them, they're going to be like, whoa, how are they? Do they teach everyone how to sell? Because we don't really want that.
Ooh. It's almost like where the thing that you're hearing everybody say you should want to have is now biting people the other way.
Especially recruiting sales. We don't want to, like with me, I have to hire people that know what they're doing. I have to trust that they're going to be able to do it their way and not come to me every 5 minutes. And we do have new people sometimes that we train a little bit to our way because we are a little different. We're not metrics driven. So, so I want people like that, but in a sales role where it's a specific product and they have a way of doing things and you've been doing it even if you've been doing it for 10 years, if you're coachable, great. If you've been doing it 10 years and you have 100,000 LinkedIn followers and you're running sales master classes, you're not going to get hired anywhere that wants you to be coachable. That's for sure. You probably don't want that anyway, but people get desperate and I get it. So that's another thing too. If you don't get a job, like if and we cover this all the time too. If there's a place that's clearly practicing like ageism or they have a problem with something you're doing, sometimes that's okay. So I guess don't post political craziness, but I think people need to accept that a lot of times it's a blessing when you don't get hired somewhere just because of whatever,
Yeah.
I can't wait to be out of this market. It's very hard to maneuver.
Yeah. Tell me this. You talked about 400 applications before, and I have a post about this because I think that one of the biggest disservices that LinkedIn does is it shows you the number of applicants, and it's not a legit number, right? It's clicks a lot of times, or if it pops out to the company's site, all it's doing is clicking the number of people who clicked that button and went to the site. Has no idea if someone applied. But like, let's say 400 people apply or whatever it is. Like, walk me through the math on your end of things. you open up, you've got 400 applicants. How many of them are, like we said, shooting their shot and have no business being there? How many of them are kind of like meh? Like what does that break down like for you?
I was gonna pull up math. I think I archived the one job, but so we had a Ruby on Rails job not that long ago. I put it up on like a Friday, and I think I came back Monday to like 600 or 700 applications. And so when I say 600 or 700, we have the knockout question. So I'm counting what didn't get auto rejected. So it's not an ATS auto rejecting. It's me putting in questions. Do you live in the United States of America? No. Auto rejected. The computer does it or the software does it for me. I'm talking about applications that came through. Of those 600, I would say 80% didn't have the minimum required skills, which were also knockout questions. But if a knockout question is, do you have 4 years with .NET, blah, 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 and they have 3, they're going to say yes because they're going to think in their head it's close enough. But in that particular client, if they didn't have 4, it was not OFCCP. Is that the right lingo? OFCCP? It wasn't. They have to have 4, otherwise it becomes a issue of discrimination or something. So if it said 4 and they have 3 and they say yes, I still have to reject. Because I know the TA is going to do it anyway. There's too many people out there that have 4 for us to go to 3, unless we really get through and nothing comes through. So 90% are probably gone. I don't want to say they lied, but they stretched the truth on their requirements, or like they didn't even live in the U.S. because they said they did, and I looked at it and they had a Telegram phone number or something or whatever you call it. So 90% of 600 are gone. I'm just going to say 60 are left because I can't math right now. Of the 60, I don't have time to call all of them. So I'm going to go into my ATS and I'm going to boolean my mandatory. So I know my mandatory requirements are there. I'm going to boolean my desired skills and try to narrow it further. So of that, I might have a third that have all. So of 600, I'm probably going to screen 20. And if it's only one role, I'm only submitting the best 3 people, according to my opinion at that point, who presents the best, who's going to interview well, who has an attitude and demeanor that will fit on that team. And that's my job at that point. So probably of 600, 3 are going to get submitted, and only 20 were even close on requirements. So that's the reality. And that was a 3-day-old job. So
I think that's important though, because everybody has this idea of, oh my gosh, there's so many applicants. Well, first of all, I hope people don't hyper focus on the 3 people got submitted, because that's not the point of the conversation here. The point is that if you are qualified, you should be applying to the job, because you will be weeded out and you will survive those kind of knockout steps.
Right. Well, right.
And don't be deterred by the 600, because a lot of people are not.
Because if you look at it, that job probably had 1,500 clicks at least.
Yeah.
So 600 got through the knockout. 600 got knocked. So that probably had 1,500, and 900 people applied that didn't qualify for the job just to start.
Yeah.
Then of the 600, another 540 lied about their qualifications. So you see a number like 1,500, probably 60 actually were good or were qualified to do the work and lived in the country.
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, it is what I'm getting at, is that a lot of times, women especially, I know are extra. There's plenty of studies out there that say women are extra hard on themselves around qualifications, or they see, 1,500 people have applied, I shouldn't even bother. And, that's I don't think that's what, I don't think that's the right way to approach it. I think what we just talked about of what's really happening
No.
behind the scenes is the important part, is that most of those numbers have no business being there, or they're going to be sorted away because they were inflating the number, but they weren't really someone who was qualified in the first place. If you are qualified, you should apply.
Right. Yeah. And now we have this really fun thing that some recruiter influencers push, that is an AI auto applier. So anything that's easy to apply on LinkedIn or any other site, you put, and I'm not, everybody was asking me the link to this thing, but anyway, it will easy apply Indeed everything if it's close to what not what your resume says, what your parameters of what you want.
Oh.
So all of the application numbers, specifically easy apply, are so inflated right now because I'll get wild applications that I don't even know. And then I call the people and they're like, I didn't apply to that. And I'm like, well, yeah, you did. You know, like,
Rule one, keep track of what you applied to.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a commission only recruiter job up, and I called probably, I mean, there was a lot of, I took it down because it got so many applications so fast, but probably the first 20 people I called, because it was a remote sales job, they had no idea they applied. And I was calling them within an hour of getting the applications because we were trying to bang it out. Yeah, I wouldn't look at application numbers ever. Just make sure you applied and apply.
Yeah, and fresh jobs. I would say fresh jobs. You know? Look for stuff that's been posted recently, because what you just said, right? Like, you're trying to get things done. And so job gets posted, you know, make sure you're a fit and get in there while the job is fresh and new, because that's likely when a recruiter, whether they're agency, whether they're working for the company, that's when they're probably looking for candidates. The older a job gets, the more likely it is you have people in process. And that doesn't mean that you still can't get hired against that job. It just means it's less likely, I think.
Right. Yeah, that, and like, we don't post on LinkedIn in their jobs anymore, but they scrape our data from where we do, which is Indeed and ZipRecruiter, I think.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn scrapes it. So I have no power to take those jobs down. It comes down eventually after I remove it from my website.
Yeah.
So and it does come through, but if it's like a couple weeks old, on our jobs especially, we don't have that much time to get people in for them. Like, we just don't. If for us, we're trying to get our 3 people per role within a week. Mm-hmm. So if it's older than a week, it's either really, really hard and I really do want you to apply, or it's dead.
Yeah.
Like, and we might come back to it if people totally bomb interviews and stuff like
Which
that.
Which happens, but not as probable.
The fresher. Oh yeah, I have one that's 6 months old and I can't get it. Like, I've gotten so close, but I just can't. So everybody falls apart at the end.
Well, you're not gonna believe this, but lunch hour is over. So I guess we gotta wrap this. We just talked for an hour like it was nothing. Final question for you. I like to ask this. Best advice. It can be career advice. It can be regular old best advice. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That I've ever received? Oh, man.
Or that you want to give people, I guess, whatever. Good piece of advice.
Yeah, I really think just keep going. I mean, if you want something, then that's been my whole life, is that if I decide I want it and I keep pushing towards it and believe I can do it, you'll get there. Yeah. Especially in this market, I know there's so many things that just hurt, and the advice, 80% of it's bad, but if you keep going and keep following after what you want and do the things you need to get to it, then you'll get it. So,
chef's kiss. That was perfect. All right. Well, thanks for spending an hour. This was fun. Gotta go. Some meeting is calling me, so let's continue. Bye, Richie.
I have all kinds of stuff.
See ya.
Bye.